And then you see how much violence there's on the left, with our friend Charlie Kirk getting murdered in cold blood this week, and people on the left celebrating it openly. The left is the party of murder.
There it is. He said it. Finally. You know, I was raised in the Bay Area my entire life, and all you hear, and you know how when you learn about narcissists, actions speak louder than words? They'll tell you one thing, but then do the opposite. Well, that's what I've learned as growing up. So as a kid, we were always taught. It's like on the one hand, this is what we heard, not only publicly, but it was in movies, it was in songs. It was, oh yeah, we're nice, we're kind, we're the good people. They're not the good people. And I had an awakening when I was 23 years old, when I moved a little bit deeper into the Bay Area. It's the complete opposite of what they advertise. Sorry, I meant to say 23 years ago. Where I live, nobody gets along. Nobody talks to each other. Everyone, if you say hello to someone, they take that as a rude offense. I am not kidding. Just walking by saying hello. I'd lived here for 10 years. Now, I'm from Napa. Napa's only about 30 minutes away, okay? 30-minute drive, maybe a little bit less. And I hadn't been back in 10 years. I went back for a football banquet, high school football banquet, kind of like an anniversary thing. And I remember I pulled up in front of my friend's house because I was going with him and his wife and his 2 kids. And I get out of my car, and I literally just closed the door, and someone across the street said, hello. And I looked around like, who's he saying hello to? And he looked at me, he goes, hello. And I said, oh, you're saying hello to me? He goes, yeah. And he kind of laughed and kind of had a weird look on his face. Because where I live now, nobody says hello. And yet we keep hearing we're the party of peace. We're the party of everyone gets along, and everyone gets along in the Bay Area. I am telling you, nobody gets along. Everyone is divided here. So this person posts on Twitter, x.com, so freedom of speech ends where feelings begin. You can't preach free America, then cheer people for losing their jobs over opinions. It's like, what? So I said, where were you when the left was firing people, canceling people for asking questions about the vax, or questioning about politics, or having a differing in opinion? Now the same people, are celebrating murder, and you are talking about, now I'm adding this right now, and you are talking about like freedom of speech. Well, these people are cheering for someone who got murdered, but you're okay with people just asking a question and posting on social media, and their media account got completely canceled. They might have gotten fired from the job. In fact, a lot of them did get fired from the jobs. A lot of things, they got canceled. So now people are cheering for someone getting murdered, and suddenly you're like, oh, well, this is freedom of speech. What happened to our freedom of speech when we were just questioning the vax? Because in 9th grade, I learned some things in 9th grade science and in college science that said, hey, wait a minute, that's not true. We're being lied to. But if you said that on social media, your video would get taken down, and if you did it again, your entire channel would get taken down. And a lot of people were getting fired from their jobs. But this is just the way it's been. This is narcissist abuse. Narcissists are saying, and here's the funny thing, they don't hide it from you. They'll tell it right to your face. Oh, I didn't say that I should get fired from my job for doing the same thing you're doing. I'm saying that you should get fired from your job for doing that. And you're like, but you did the same thing. You're like, yeah, but that's different. What? That's gaslighting, folks. This is gaslighting 101. And they're still doing it. And they think we don't see it. They're going to continue to do it. All you can do is see it for what it is and call them on their bullshit. So a few years back, they're saying, well, that's the owner of the business's right. They can fire whoever they want. Okay, well, then that's the owner of the business. They can fire whoever they want. I mean, so which is it? Well, it depends on if it's happening to you or to them. If it's happening to you, then it's okay. The owner of the business has the right to do that. But if it's happening to them, oh, you can't do that. We're not fighting a fair fight. They are not playing by the rules. In fact, they don't even have any rules. They just change the rules as they move along. They change the rules to benefit them. And if a rule that they made, that they enforced, suddenly doesn't benefit them, then they change it to benefit them and not you. So a couple of years ago, when I was making videos about narcissist abuse, a lot of people are like, do they realize what they're doing? Yes, and that was the thing. Yes, they know exactly what they're doing. And the thing is, they know that your brain, the way your brain works, you're like, well, I mean, they probably don't realize what they're doing. No, they know exactly what they're doing, and they know that that's exactly what you're going to do. See, the question isn't, do they know? The question is, do you know? Yes, they know what they're doing. They play stupid on purpose, but the funny thing is they don't play stupid. They say it to your face and they laugh because you can't see it, even though they say it to you directly. Now, what I'm about to say is something that happened. It was just a group of people. It has nothing to do with their ethnicity or race. It's just who they are. So where I used to live before, I had these neighbors move in, and they would harass me and my girlfriend. They picked up my girlfriend, they threw her in the bushes, they slashed my tires. They weren't just doing it to me, they were doing it to all the neighbors. So finally, I called the cops. The cops come over and say, we talked to the neighbors, and they keep saying you're a really nice guy. I'm like, well, I am a nice guy. Why? They're like, so why is this going on? Because the cops assumed because I was the white guy, I must have been the racist. But watch what happens. The cop was black, and my girlfriend was darker. She's from Laos. Laotian people are very, very dark, like very dark. She was darker than any of those kids. Her girlfriend's from Micronesia, and she's even darker than her. And the cop goes, well, if you're a racist, why do you have these two people in your home? I'm like, I'm not a racist. So they called the kids over. They got the other cops. They bring the kids over, look, what's going on? And they asked the kids, like, so what did he do to you? And they're like, nothing. And they're like, so why are you doing this to him? Because he's white. And the cops go, yeah, I can see he's white, but I don't get it. Now, there was a black and a white cop. Now, my girlfriend literally whispered under her breath into my ear and said, they're being racist. And I looked at him like, what? Now, I couldn't even see it because I was brainwashed to believe that only white people could be racist. So the cop says, yeah, I can see that he's white, but why are you doing this to him? What did he do? And the kid said again out loud, like 3 or 4 of them at the same time, they go, nothing. And the cop goes, so why are you doing this? And he said, and the kids say, because he's white. And the cop goes, so why are you doing this? And the kids literally bust out laughing. They're like, we just told you. And the cops couldn't get it. And I'm not kidding. Now here's the deal though. The kids were actually being honest. They weren't even lying. And the cops asked them again, and the kid goes, we just told you because he's white. And the cop goes, I can see that he's white, but why are you doing this to him? And the kid's just looking at the cop like, oh my God. Here's the deal. I could actually feel for the kids' frustration because the kids were being very honest up front, and they're speaking very directly and very out loud. And it's like the brainwashing in this country has been insane. Now, admittedly, that was over 20 years ago. In fact, that was quite a bit over 20 years ago. And it wasn't until the cop just goes, I don't know what to say because we're leaving. And I closed the door. My girlfriend goes, they did it because they're racist. I'm like, I said, how could they be racist? I was brainwashed too. She's like, what do you mean? They're doing it to you because you're white. They said it. And I just kind of rolled my eyes like, whatever. And I walked away. But it sunk into the back of my brain. And my brain kind of molded it through. Now, luckily, at the time, I was involved in meditation, consciousness work, and doing all this stuff. And I started going through a huge awakening in my mid-20s, and I mean a huge awakening. And I snapped out of being naive. Now, here's Charlie Kirk. God bless him. I love the guy. I love the work he's done. I've loved what he has done and spoken out for. This is one naive guy. I remember when I turned on the television or, maybe even YouTube and started going, well, who's this guy? And then there's Tucker Carlson. I'm like, well, who's this guy? Like, why are people listening to these guys? They're great speakers, and they have the courage to speak up, which I think is it's a good thing. And they have great memories. They're great at oratory, but these are man boys. These are little children. These are not grown men. These are not men who've been punched in the face. These are not men who understand. See, one thing I've noticed about people who have never been punched in the face, they think they can get away with anything. But one day they're going to run across that person who says, nah, not today. And they're going to get punched in the face. You know what I noticed that happens to people like that? Reality sinks in. It kicks in. They're like, oh shit, there's consequences. Yeah, there's consequences out there. But we as a country, and I would say countries across the world, have been brainwashed. into not standing up for themselves, no matter how wrong, from crime to murder to rape to whatever. We just, we'll just sit down and talk about it. We don't do anything. I think finally now, I think people are going, oh, wait a minute, so they're not playing fair. No, they've never played fair. I honestly thought the lockdowns, this is going to bring back the 1776 Americans. No, they folded. All of them. They folded like cowards. I mean, I was like, hey, we got to take a stand. We got to do this. We got to do something. We got to do something. Oh no, Mike, we don't do that. The Republican Party, we don't stand up for our rights. And people on my page, and I think I even made videos about it during the narcissist abuse videos I made. And I'm like, no, these are staunch Christian Republicans. And I'm like, what? I actually unfriended some people that I've loved since high school. I'm like, that's not the American that I know. But these people all brag about how they're American, they fly the flag. But when it comes time to actually take a stand, to say something, to do something, oh no, Michael, we don't do that. We've got jobs. That's literally what they said. And I said, not for long. This was just before the lockdowns. I said, they're literally going to take your jobs away. Oh, Michael, they can't do that. And then they did. I literally thought after a few months into their lockdown, Americans would be like, oh, F this. And I literally thought we would take to the streets by the millions. And I was posting on Facebook like, hey, we need to do Million Man March on every state capital on Washington, D.C. And all of my friends were like, no, we don't do that kind of stuff, Michael. And you know whose fault that is? Theirs. Republican Christians. You refused to take a stand when we should have taken a stand 12 plus years ago. You refused to take a stand when you knew we should have took a stand 5 years ago. You won't do anything. Hopefully this has wakened people up. About 12, 15 years ago, I just started noticing a lot of Christian men were extremely effeminate, like they'd never lifted a weight in their life, like they've never done a push-up in their life, just wilting, and they speak with such a soft tone, such a soft, it's all about love and peace and harmony. Well, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but reality is not all about peace, love, and harmony. What the hell are you talking about? Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, God bless those guys. They're good men. They really are. But goddamn, they couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag if you paid them $1 million. They couldn't do it. In the church, I know because I was in the church for 30 plus years. And it was this constant message of peace and harmony. And yet it clearly says that Jesus is not coming back to make peace. He says that's what he was there for in the beginning. Jesus is coming back as a roaring lion to destroy. He's not coming back to make peace. It clearly says that the lines have been drawn. He's going to come in and he's going to destroy. Period. End of sentence. And another lie in the church is, the meek shall inherit the earth. And they say, the meek, the weak. It doesn't say weak. It says meek. Meek means the strong and the silent, like warriors. The weak are the one that bark and 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 don't do anything. Well, that's been the Republican Party for the last 40 plus years. The funny thing is, I confronted my pastor on this. I'm like, so why don't you tell them what that word means? He goes, it's all about peace and harmony. No, it's not. Even Jesus himself is not coming back to make peace and harmony. That is not the truth. That's a lie. He says he's coming back as a roaring lion to devour. All these Christian young boys, young men, teenagers, etc. have been getting brainwashed to be these weak, wilting, wimpy beings. Like, it's all about peace, love, and harmony. Guess what? That sounds just like the hippie 70s movement, doesn't it? Exactly like it. Meek means to be a very strong warrior, fighter. But it also means to socially be a quiet being, to be someone of harmony, someone of peace. It doesn't mean to be physically and emotionally weak. It does not mean that. So here's another person. I mean, he says the good word, but look at him. The guy couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. He's a frickin' marshmallow. These are the images that are being portrayed to our young men to be weak. And they are. Even our adults are weak.
It's really hard to radicalize Republicans. Yeah.
You know, it's like we're not the radical type, but if you thought that you were going to shut a movement down, you're going to get a rude awakening. You woke us the fuck up.
Now I'm thinking, well, at least it's about time. But then Anthea here says the anger is simmering already. And I'm like, simmering? What are you talking about? So I said it's about time. Should have been simmering over 12 years ago or more. Why did this take so long? So long in this much murder and crime. And corruption for Americans to be damn Americans. Like why did it take this so long? Like, what are you waiting for? Well, we were brainwashed to be kind to everyone, regardless of them stabbing us, shooting us, raping us, killing us, stealing from us, creating crime. I mean, you know where I live in San Rafael? Even to this day, criminals, these people walk in the store with bags, they load the bags up, and they walk out. It's still going on. I don't mean like one person. I don't mean like two. I'm talking a dozen people a night will come in, and when it gets dark around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, they walk and they take their time. They don't even hide it anymore because they know that the rules that were set, the cops aren't allowed to do anything. The company, the managers aren't allowed to do anything. The employees are told that even if you say anything, let alone do anything, you will get fired. So nobody's doing nothing. It's time for people to really stand up, to speak up, to never back down, to not be quiet. It's time to be loud.
One of our very own, outspoken, fearless, devil-stomping, non-apologetic preaching. One of our own brothers spilled his blood for the very gospel he's been preaching all over America. And we're here to say, we will not be silent. Not now. Not ever. Every born-again Christian, every real Christian, open your mouth and roar. We ain't shutting up. We ain't backing up. We ain't cowards. We're gonna preach until Jesus comes. If you believe God, give us praise.
What I'm saying is your religion has been hijacked. Your religion was hijacked by the enemy, and your men were conditioned to be weak. We were conditioned not to stand up for ourselves. That's why this has gotten this far, is because we should have stood up decades ago, and we didn't. In fact, we didn't even notice it. Should have never gotten this far. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.